Banjo Kazooie is one of the most iconic games from the Nintendo 64 era. The game came out on June 29, 1998, and is still talked about 25 years later. I have so much nostalgia for this game, it's insane. I remember trying to play this as a kid and not even making it past the first level. I really don't understand how kids played, much less completed this game back in the day. When I say it's challenging, it is genuinely challenging. The story, characters, and levels are what makes this game so wacky and memorable. In fact, those two reasons are exactly why it stands out, even amongst other cult classics from the time, such as Ocarina of Time and Mario 64. I absolutely love the story and the characters. The story alone is just so out there. In case you've never played the game, let me set the scene. Imagine this. There's an evil witch who wants to find out who the fairest in all the land is. And guess what? It's not her. The fairest turns out to be Tootie, Banjo's little sister. One day, Banjo and his sister Tootie are just chilling at home, right? Banjo is sleeping and Tootie is right outside talking to her homie Bottles, when suddenly, the witch swoops in and snatches Tootie. Like straight up kidnaps her in broad daylight. The witch's plan is to steal Tootie's beauty for herself, which, I'm not gonna lie, Grunty is kinda bad in those cutscenes. In order to save his sister, Banjo and his beaked friend Kazooie must go to Gruntilda's lair and solve all the puzzles in order to defeat the evil witch. Honestly, this game follows your standard collectathon. You go from level to level and traverse a small overworld, aka Grunty's lair. Within these levels are where the main challenges take place. In each level you collect 10 Jiggies, 5 Jinjos, 100 notes, and 2 honeycomb pieces. There are some optional, but also not really optional collectibles. For example, Mumbo tokens, which allow you to undergo transformations when needed. So now with that out of the way, let's quickly jump into how I feel about each level and how I would rank them. Again, these are just my opinions and you're free to tell me how you feel in the comments. Starting off with the first level we have Mumbo's Mountain. I feel like this is a good starter level. There's some fun characters like Conga and the random sassy termites. This is also where you learn about Mumbo and his transformations. It's fun to play and a safe space to learn the basics. For example, Talon Trot and Beak Buster, 2 moves you will use in almost every level from here on out. I really don't have too much to say about it, it's a very inoffensive level. I give it 3 Mumbo tokens out of 5. Treasure Trove Cove. This level takes place at the beach, so you would think it would be a nice relaxing level, but no, it is anything but relaxing. I am not a big fan of this stage, as it gives me angina and anxiety. 2 things I should not have while playing a children's game. You see this shark right here? Me and him have beef. Trying to get the blue Jinjo under the starting platform is nerve-wracking each playthrough because he tries to eat you every time you enter the water. This was really hard for me on my first playthrough as the swimming controls were just not intuitive enough for me. I found out way too late that you can actually kill him, which, I'm not gonna lie, it kinda felt good to do. I swear I'm not a psychopath. Other than that, the level was fine. The enemies in general were kind of annoying, but I think they're supposed to be. It's an okay level, but just not for me. I give it 2.5 Mumbo tokens out of 5. Clankers Cavern. Okay, I just have to start by saying, Clanker is so cute. He may look scary, but I swear he's not. Clanker is a giant robotic whale shark that's stuck in dirty trash-filled water thanks to our main villain Grunty. In the level, you must raise him out of the water so he can breathe fresh air. I honestly didn't like this level at first, of course because of the swimming controls, but once you get the hang of it, it's really not that bad. Also, when raising him out of the water, you don't have to complete it all in one go. Trust me, I tried that and I died plenty of times. Instead, you can just swim back and forth between the bottom and the surface of the water. All of the Jiggies are found either inside or outside of Clanker. This level isn't too big, which kind of adds to the whole scavenger hunt element. It's a challenging yet rewarding level if you can 100% it. This may be surprising, but I give it 3.8 Mumbo tokens out of 5. I love a good challenge. Bubble Gloop Swamp. I like this level. As the title says, it takes place in a swamp. The ground is covered in toxic liquid, so this leads to a lot of platforming in the level. You also learn how to use the wading boots, which allow you to run around in the dirty swamp water for a short period of time without getting hurt. What I dislike about this level the most is Mr. Vile. He really does live up to his name. He's an alligator that challenges you to eat more Yumblies than him, and if you don't win, he bites you and takes a piece of life. And get this, even if it's a tie, that still counts as a loss. Really rare? How does that even make sense? I also dislike the musical turtle game, but that's just because the perspective is kind of weird and adds another layer of difficulty outside of just memorization. This was the first level I actually really liked during my first playthrough. I give it 3.7 Mumbo tokens out of 5. Freeze Easy Peak. I'm just gonna be straight up, I think this is my favorite level. I actually started off not really liking it due to ice physics in this twinkly light bulb game, but after you get the hang of it, it's really fun. This level requires a lot of talon trotting, flying around, and using beak bombs to destroy snowmen. I hated these guys my first playthrough, but luckily there's an easy way to kill them. Just line up Kazooie's head with the X on their hat, and there you go. The snowmen are now a puddle of water. Other than that, this level is such a vibe. I mean, you get to race a polar bear and chill with a seal. Literally. Get it? Because it's cold? I give it 5 Mumbo tokens out of 5. Gos Valley. Now looking at the name of the level, you may be asking yourself who is Gobi and what makes this his valley? Is he a pharaoh or some sort of royalty from a faraway land? Not at all. Gobi is a camel that is sick and tired of your antics. Even though you saved his life, but I mean, whatever. I actually really like this level, not to mention that the music is kind of a bop. There are a couple difficult challenges. For example, the maze can be confusing, especially if you try to get the witch switch on the first try. Also, running up the pyramid with the turbo trainers is hell. There's barely enough time for you to make it in. You literally have to cut corners. It sucks, but hey, them's the rules. I give it 4.7 Mumbo tokens out of 5. Mad Monster Mansion. Who doesn't love a good spooky level? Now, on my first playthrough of this level, I actually messed up big time, so I still have some residual PTSD. You see, before playing this level, you need to break a gate that's next to the actual level itself, or else you're pretty much screwed. Of course, I did not know this, and completed the level and used my Mumbo tokens to transform into a pumpkin. Upon leaving the level, I walked over to the gate and couldn't get through, meaning I had to detransform, and then use even more Mumbo tokens to transform again in order to progress to the next level. Luckily, I had a save state before this, so I just opted to replay the entire level, which was annoying, but excluding my own mistake, this level is actually pretty good. It can be a bit frustrating with the timed elements and the enemies, but other than that, it's pretty solid. I give it 4 Mumbo tokens out of 5. Rusty Bucket Bay. This is a super controversial level. If you know, you know. But in case you don't, let me show you why it's so divisive. This also leads me into making a confession. I shamelessly use save states throughout this level. There's no way in hell I could complete the engine room without it. The engine room jiggies are probably the most controversial and hated jiggies in the entire game. It's so frustrating as you're guaranteed to fail at least a couple times each playthrough. Not only do you have to worry about platforming, rotating pipes, fans, and gears, once you're actually able to stop the propellers, you're then timed on how fast you can exit the engine room, run to the back of the ship, get in the water that takes away your ability to breathe twice as fast, yes you heard me correctly, twice as fast, and swim behind the propeller to collect a jiggy. I'm exhausted just saying all of that. I have a love-hate relationship with this level if you couldn't tell. This level has some of the hardest jiggies and jinjos to collect, but trust me, 100%ing the level is so worth it. I give it 3.6 Mumbo tokens out of 5. Click Clockwood. This is a super long level, but I love it so much. In this level, Banjo and Kazooie explore all 4 seasons. And just like in real life, winter is the worst. In each season, different characters appear, disappear, or are in different stages of their life. For example, this little guy Nabnut. Nabnut is a squirrel. And what are squirrels known for? Gathering enough acorns for the winter. Nabnut follows that same trend of gathering acorns, but ultimately he has a moment of weakness and he begins to eat his own supply during the spring. By the time summer rolls around, he's already eaten all of the acorns. Which leads us to fall, where he finally has a moment of clarity and asks Banjo and Kazooie for help by gathering 6 more acorns. I really don't know what 6 more acorns are going to do, but hey, I just do what I'm told. I really love the overall narrative this level has. Whoever thought of this type of level truly has big brain energy. I give it 4.2 Mumbo tokens out of 5. So after completing the aforementioned levels, it is now time to face Grunty head on. And how do we face Grunty, you ask? Well, by competing in a game show where we have to answer questions about the game you're currently playing. I hope you've been paying attention, because if you haven't, you're virtually screwed. Not only are there questions about the game, the levels, the music, etc., there's also random questions about Grunty herself, which you would only know the answer to if you've been talking to her sister Bruntilda Winky Bunyan. This quiz show is complete insanity, but I also think it adds to the overall quirkiness of the game. Like, what other game would do this? After you complete the quiz, save duty, and take a short break, it is now time to face Grunty like a man. Or a bear. It's time to throw some hands. Now, if you've been a good player one and collecting all the jiggies, then you will get a special reward that makes the final boss a lot easier. By collecting 98 jiggies or more, you will get double the amount of life. This is a must-have for the final battle, because trust me, it is quite challenging. Not only does it involve dodging fireballs and powerful attacks, you must also dodge Grunty herself. The fight takes place both on the ground and in the air. You are forced to use a lot of the moves you learn throughout the levels, such as Wonder Wing, Beak Bomb, and Egg Shooting. The fight ends with the Jinjos coming in clutch and finishing off Grunty as a thanks for saving them throughout the levels. Grunty falls to what probably should have been her death, but of course this is a children's game, so she's still alive but trapped under a pile of rocks. Next, we see Banjo, Kazooie, and Tootie chilling on a nice island. And wait, what was that? The world is finally at peace. Banjo and Kazooie saved Tootie and now are able to relax. Alright, now let's jump into the overall gameplay. When it comes to the controls, there's a bit of a learning curve. For example, swimming. I hate swimming in this game as the controls are just not good. Verticality, turning, and speed also become a big issue during your first playthrough. Banjo's default turning ability is absolutely horrendous. Holding the Z button actually allows you to make sharper turns, which is honestly a lifesaver in certain situations. For example, the blue Jinjo in Treasure Trove Cove, and the purple Jinjo in Rusty Bucket Bay. Once I learned about that hack, I almost never swam like a regular bear again. Back on dry land, the controls weren't too bad, but they were also a bit clunky. I found myself getting a bit confused as to which combination of buttons does which move. I should also note that I played this on the Switch and haven't touched the Nintendo 64 version in over 15 years. If you play this game enough, then you'll definitely be a pro by the end of the game, but it still feels a bit awkward sometimes. Speaking of awkwardness, the camera was also a little bit annoying as you don't have full control of it. You kind of have to go with the best view you can get and hope and pray you can see what you need to see. Overall, there were some gameplay and control issues, but that's to be expected when playing a game that came out 25 years ago. Other than that, I think it holds up pretty well. I think the charm this game has vastly outweighs any of its flaws. But then again, that may be the nostalgia talking. Who knows? Now let's talk about the series after Banjo Kazooie's successful release. 2 years later, in the year 2000, a Banjo Kazooie sequel, Banjo Tooie, was released. I personally haven't played it, but it seemed to be a good game. Just not as good as the first game, which is a hard ask in my opinion. After Tooie, there were 2 other games released, Banjo Pilot and Grunty's Revenge, but almost nobody talks about them, and I'm not gonna start now. Which leads us to the year 2008 with the release of Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. This is quite an infamous installment in the series. Nuts and Bolts seems to be a polarizing title as the game featured building vehicles to complete its main challenges. I'm not exactly sure why they decided to do that, but okay. The gameplay seems to be the main cause for concern, with some people specifically pointing to the main vehicle building gimmick and the gameplay physics as the biggest issues. Sadly, after Nuts and Bolts, there hasn't been another Banjo Kazooie game, and I can kind of see why. In the end, I cannot recommend Banjo Kazooie enough. It's a cute, fun game that I think people of all ages can enjoy, especially if you're looking for a bit of a challenge. Let me know what you think of Banjo Kazooie in the comments below. Thank you for watching, my name is Andy, and I hope to see you in the next video.